Hello, hi and welcome to one of the sessions for Innovate 2022. My name is Steve Wright. I'm the Customer Experience Manager at SCSM. And today I'm joined with Gerhard Goossens from Northwest University in South Africa. He's a system specialist there. Do you want to say hi, Gerhard?
Yes, sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Gerhard, as Steve said, and he asked me to join this presentation. So welcome.
That's great. And as you can see from the title, it's reporting without SQL. That is a thing. And the subtitle there is Enable Your Workforce with Data using SCSM and Power BI. And I'm really excited about this session because there's a lot of content that we've spoken about in various avenues and forums, namely on our community and also in our open floor around sort of leveraging data and making it actionable. And I did a similar session last year with another customer, so I'm excited to have Gerhard sort of walk us through his experience and also just dig deeper into how we can get the interoperability, the hybrid nature of data and make it useful for the workforce. But before we get into all that, not only am I welcoming you to Innovate this year, but as you probably know from other sessions, all the conference sessions are being recorded, and the recordings will be available shortly after the event. And more importantly, we have live presenter interaction, which is available after each session. That's really where the rubber meets the road. You can, you can get your questions answered. The presenters will be available to really dig into some of those questions. Anything that we can't answer, we'll definitely take on board and get those answers to the people that are asking and share that information out. So look out for the lounges. Make sure you sort of take your notes and get your questions to us. And again, the third point is that the open floor lounge, which I'm excited about, is going to be open all day. So whether it's a question that was prompted by a session, or if it's something that just comes up, you're in front of SCSM, you're in front of customers that have got similar questions or issues, concerns, that environment is there all day to sort of answer those questions. And again, we'll do our best to answer right there and then, but sometimes we've got to take it offline, give it a thought, get our heads together, and then get you an answer for that. So again, just use those things. Just a reminder that that's available to you throughout the conference today. So welcome to our session. And as I said, I'm excited to have Gerhard on the session co-presenting today. And what we're going to do is we're going to walk through a use case for leveraging access to data across various teams so that they can make better informed decisions and also shape behavior and their best practices. Along with that, we want to resolve, the challenge of bringing disparate data in an interactive reporting platform. And really, the benefit of that is that it provides people with the ability to self-service. And also, we want to look at, the methods that we use to combine data and the variety of the data sources that we can reference. And we'll kind of wrap up with some of our iterative ideas, talking about a recent release that within the SCSM portal, which is the archiver release. And we'll see how we can use that kind of what we've done today and leverage that for sort of future and continual service improvement. So again, the agenda, 3 very simple premises here. We want to begin with the end in mind. One of our idea titles was BI for all, making BI accessible to all. And I think you'll see some of those elements come to fruition as we go through the session today. But really, that's the goal. We want to make sure that people have information that is actionable to modify, change, enhance behavior, get the results for the organization that they are looking for. The other thing is we want to build the foundation. Data is the key to intelligence. A lot of the sessions talk around machine learning and or artificial intelligence. And really, a lot of that is built on the not only the quantity, but also the quality of data that you have. Lots of data, but little information is a kind of a buzzword, and it's really important to get the data right. Sometimes it's better to have less that is good than have lots that is kind of, a little bit shaky. And also, we want to present a solution. It's no point having all these things if you can't get it to the audience that need to use it and consume it. So we were looking at how, this information gets delivered, potentially how we can monitor it. And also, because we've got those two elements in place, it's very important to iterate. Again, that's an ITIL, continuous improvement model mantra. So we need to make sure that whatever we present is in a format that is iterable, if that's a word, and we can sort of go through and grow it. So that's very important. So first point, begin with the end in mind, reporting without SQL. What do people want to know? And Gerhard, I'd like to get your feedback on this. We kind of crafted this slide together based on some questions that, discussions that we've had. And we looked at sort of 3 personas in this scenario. And you have those 3 personas within your organization, correct?
Yes, that's correct, Steve.
Mm.
So as you see on the slide, there's the business managers, and they want to consume the data that is actionable. So they want to see the data and do trending on it or see what's going on. Mm-hmm. And the analyst side is where they want to see feedback real time on key information. So if there's a network outage or anything happening real time, that they can get the data via a dashboard and respond to that as quickly as possible. And that helps a lot to prevent to help the people. And then you also have the system admins who wants to help the organization, not only the business managers, but the organization as a whole, to leverage data from different sources. And we'll get into those different sources a bit later. But you need that insight to provide for business.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting because the system admins one is one of those that sometimes it's kind of the backstage folks, right? They're
Yes.
Sometimes people don't think of reporting for the analysts, for the admins, because they're in front of the data, so they must know what's going on. Well, no, there's a strong reporting need in that space, so that the metrics and the measures that they're using are relevant to the organization. Whether it's sort of alerting, basic alerting for things going wrong, or some way of aggregating those alerts so there's an action that's taken. I'm sure we've got sessions that talk about automation on the back of an alert. So, it's important. Again, data is important for the system admin's role because it needs to lead to something they can action against. And I said that the little yellow box talks about information driving behavior, and I think that's key, right? I mean, we need to be. It's no point having information if it doesn't lead to something, whether it directly affects the bottom line. Your organization is a university, right, Gerhard? So
yes, that's correct.
Your KPIs or your goals and objectives as an organization may be different for someone who's maybe just a straight for-profit widget maker, for example,
yes.
in the education space. And you're, I guess, being a university, are you governed? Is there there's a national governance? You have
yes,
to.
Yes. Yeah. So from the government side, there is KPIs, etc., that we do need to meet. And so when you look at the business perspective, it's not just the business as a university, but you can also look at it as IT functioning as a business inside of the university, because we need to deliver the services. And so this is not just for IT reporting, but for the bigger business as well, to get trends on all kinds of metrics.
Yeah, that's cool. So we can see that there's a I was going to say there's a vertical nature to the data in terms of, from, if you like, almost like an ISO layers. There's things at the grassroots, a server has a disk error and that prompts an alert that needs reporting on, all the way up to business managers have to see whether the timeliness of dealing with an issue is going to affect the quality of service that we are promised our end users, our ultimate end users, and therefore affecting how good we are running the business. So there's a vertical there. And also there's an element of a horizontal. I mean, Gerhard said it's, they are an IT team delivering IT services to a university. So there are verticals in there. I mean, it could be IT in one aspect needing a level of reporting. It could be HR or onboarding that need a level of understanding. Their tickets, for example, will be very different to someone who's sitting in front of a workstation that's broken. So there are sort of vertical areas to the business as well. Is that true?
Yes, that's correct. That's 100%.
Yeah.
So
again, well, go ahead.
So the data is, it's not just about IT, it's about the whole university or the whole organization from the onboarding, potentially. That's the options that you can do. Depends on where you get your data from, but we'll get to that.
Right. All right, great. And then also, accuracy and timeliness and context of the data, of the information is key. It's no point having good information too late to act on. Or similarly, having information that you can't really get an idea of what it's about because there's no context to that. Again, that's thinking a bit deeper than just collecting a log. There's more to it than that, and we'll see how disparate data sources can allow us to do that. And we just mentioned through those personas, the consumers of information will vary across all the levels and departments of an organization. And like anything else in IT, it doesn't stand still. It's a constantly moving target. So from moving in cube language where you have dimensions, moving dimensions. What was a product this year is not a product next year, and what do you do with that data and so on. So moving target all the way. And then, so that's kind of, we're beginning with end in mind in terms of what we want to get done. Next step is kind of like to build the foundation. And we've identified sort of the 3 pillars in our use case that we really want to focus on. The data source, and then the data visualization. And in a nutshell, we've got on first column in terms of data. In Northwest University's example, we're pulling data from a data warehouse, which is SQL Server and analytics services. We also have access to data that is in the sort of the highly transactional, the OLAP database. And then we have the opportunity to pull in disparate data from external data sets or databases, whether they are sort of SQL, Excel, a flat file, text, those that kind of make up the data sources. Is there anything I've missed on that section there, Gerhard, that you want to add to?
No, I think you got it all that we discussed. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So that's where we're at in terms of the raw data, and then the data source. For me, the data source is where the magic happens, because it really takes. You don't need to be. Oh, maybe nowadays with data being so large, data sciences and being able to understand data quality. All of those things that were kind of in the purview of the high mathematical science type elements are really important in the data source. Whether you're using a query language like SQL to create views to give you an aggregation or a model, I'm trying to think of the word now, normalized or denormalized model of your data. Composite modeling is a key feature within the Microsoft BI stack, because that tool now allows you to bring in disparate sources and treat them as if they're all under one sort of umbrella. And then obviously you want to make sure your data sources are optimized for delivery and refresh. So you don't want too much information coming in because you've got to wait for it. You don't want too little because then you've got to sort of iterate and go back and get more. So the data source is really where some of the magic source happens. Do you want to speak to anything in that section, in that column?
Yes, so I know the title of the thing is No SQL, and we're talking about a lot of SQL.
It's a little bit of it, isn't
but
it?
the idea is to initially there will be SQL that needs to be written to access certain data sources. But if you look at the example of the view that you mentioned, is in the data warehouse, it's a complicated model. And what I've done is to build a view that aggregates the data that I need and combines incident and service requests data into one view. And then that view is being pulled into the BI service. So it's not a whole database or lots of different tables, etc. It's one view with the data as you want it. So that was very thoughtfully created. We sat, we discussed what data are we going to need. And there's lots of data points inside it. And then we said, okay, so this is what we want to report on and how we're going to get it. And it was decided that the view will be the better way to get the data. And then it was built, and then that can be consumed. So that view is not only being used on the BI side, but also if you look at the portal dashboard side, you can connect to that view from there. Well, so you can reuse it and use it for different kind of stuff. So yeah, that's it.
Like I said, it's really that. I mean, I've used and played with some of those things in my previous role as a support manager within Cyrus, and that was definitely key to make sure that you have a good view set, in terms of what you want to do. And if you can repurpose, then it's one set of work for multiple benefits, multiple purposes.
Yes.
So definitely key. And our title was really speaking to almost like the third column, which is data visualization. And in a sense, when people think of reporting, they think of the visualization of data as the report. Often the consumer is not the builder, and that's probably best practice, because the consumers are looking at the data for a different reason. They're not looking at it to redesign a report. They've got other things in their job function that they need to do. So with that respect, there is no SQL in the third column, data visualization, because we're using a very feature-rich platform in Power BI that gives even the creator of reports a very rich platform to slice and dice, to aggregate, to drill through, to the bells and whistles in terms of switches and levers, to really bring the data to life without having to always build a report. I think that's really the thing. Sometimes it can be too rich, the eye candy of internet life. We're all used to things popping and buzzing and whizzing in front of our screen, in front of our faces. And then you sit in front of a static report that comes out of SSRS, and you want to lose yourself. I mean, I think that's where you're coming from, right? Yes, that's part of your pain point there, Gerhard.
Exactly. So the SSRS reports does have its place, but it's much better to interact with the data live and to see what's happening. So I'm going to jump the gun a bit to the data visualization side. Is one of our service desk managers likes the data. He likes to play with the data and get the information he needs, and he can't necessarily always wait for me or for somebody else to build it. So I gave him access to the database and that view, and I set up his Power BI for him, and he's creating reports. So I'll show an example of that a bit later. Cool. So that's also how to bridge that NoSQL part. So there's somebody who wants a report or to see data, and he doesn't need SQL. He grabs BI, connects to the data source, and consumes the data.
Excellent, excellent. So yes, I mean, it's a presentation layer, as I said, it gives you the bells and whistles, and you tailor it for the audience to the point where you can pick the audience that looks at your visualization, which again is a very nice feature. No SQL in that space, none needed for the consumer to use the report. So in that building, there's sort of four premises. These sort of action points that we want to be mindful of. We need to know the audience. We need to know who the players are, who the stakeholders are. And as you saw in the last slide, the personas are important. We really need to drill into who we are presenting for, because if we don't know whether we've provided a solution or not. So it's very important to know the audience. Also to know the desired outcome. In terms of scale and time, some of the things that we're doing here may take your organization a while to get to, and that's okay as long as you understand and you present the desired outcome within a reasonable scale and time, whether that's people resources, financial resources, technical resources, whatever, so that you set a goal that you can get to. So again, that's important. A bit obvious, but it's still important. Got to know your data, where it's coming from, how much you need it, how often you need to update it, whether you can wait a day for an OLAP cube, for example, an SSRS or a SAS cube to be built, so that you can report it from your data warehouse, or do you absolutely need real time as a ticket is in? You need to know where that data is coming from, how big, how rich, and then know the platform. There's always things that you can learn about the platforms that you're using, whether it's the SCSM space, data warehousing within the Microsoft ecosystem in terms of the Power Automate and those platforms, and just being smart about how we can get things into the hands of the consumer so they can get the benefits that we're after. And then to that end, we want to think about this in terms of presenting a solution. So I sort of answered those questions in the context of in the use case at Northwest University. The audience is Northwest University. I think Gerhard mentioned that it's more than just university for the end users, but the IT business, if you like, within the university is delivering services to aspects and departments within Northwest. How big is the university, Gerhard?
We have 3 campuses in 3 cities in South Africa, but we also have remote students, which is quite a lot. I don't know. I think total it's about 80,000 students and staff.
Wow.
So okay. It's quite a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah. It's big.
Good. So again, knowing the audience is definitely the key. Knowing the desired outcome. I know when Gerhard and I spoke, the target on the wall for this exercise was to get information into the hands of the business managers. They were getting it an old way. Oh, you can speak to it, Gerhard. What were they getting before, and what was the goal for the desired outcome?
Okay, so when you look at the desired outcomes, is our previous ticketing system wasn't sufficient in delivering data or getting reports from it. It was difficult and cumbersome, and all the metrics and data points was not there. So we started the process of looking at a new solution, and we ended up with Service Manager because of the data warehouse and reporting behind that. So that's why we ended up with it, and to enable the business manager, as it says exactly there. And since then we have evolved. The Power BI thing is fairly new since we started to use it, so we haven't used it from the beginning. So we are also still busy exploring it and looking at the options and how to build the dashboards and how to present the data and etc. with all the other points we spoke about previously. But the end goal is that the desired outcome is to enable the business managers to look at the dashboard and see the data, or static or
Mhm.
more drill-through reports where they can explore the data and get where they want to be.
Right, right.
And then, yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying, well, I think you're going to the next point there in terms of
Okay.
that leads into knowing your data, right? You can actually speak to the next
Yes.
two.
So knowing your data was difficult, if I can say the least, with the data warehouse solution.
Mm.
Where we previously had little to no data, we have a lot now, and it was cumbersome to learn the schemas and to understand how not only the data warehouse, but the cubes and all the data in the service manager database works and interacts. So, and what you can get from which source, and deciding which one will be the best. So from a data perspective, that's important. So if you use the data warehouse, the service manager database, or any other external system, the example we have here is the phone system, our PBX system that uses a MariaDB. So you must know those schemas. You must know where to go and look to find the correct data, and then also to vet it against maybe some kind of out of the box dashboards that the service provider provides, to test your data against that to make sure that it is correct.
Good point. Good point.
And then now your platform part. Sorry, you want to go?
No. I was going to lead into the platform because you mentioned the phone system.
Yes. So now your platform is more about what the title of the presentation is using BI and the gateway behind that to get your data to the cloud to build those reports easier. So Power BI as a basis, you can install a Power BI app on your computer, and you can connect to a data source, and you can build your dashboard. But then that is only for you. Only you can see it. You can maybe take a screenshot and share it in a meeting or something. The power of the gateway, it provides a way for you to connect to the cloud with the data, and then to share your data there with anyone that you choose. There is obviously privacy issues regarding data in the cloud. What gets pushed, who has access to it, etc. I know in South Africa we have the POPI law that protects those data. I know Europe and Americans have different kind of schemes, but it comes down to the same thing. So that's also important consideration to know what data is being pushed and where it is. So if you don't have Azure, the data center in your country, then the data is going to go out of your country. So does those laws allow that? And if not, then you need to consider another way to do this. So know your platform, know all the legal stuff behind that. Yeah.
Cool. So then I think that's a good segue into looking at something that Gerhard's been in front of building. So I'm going to stop my share and allow Gerhard to share his screen.
I can just get to that screen.
Yep. There we go. Yeah, it's coming up now.
Yeah, see that.
That's great. Yep, great.
Okay, so this is an example of a more static kind of dashboard. It is publicly available for everybody. So this is the university website. You can browse to this and interact or see the stats here. I'm just going to make it full screen. So this is an example of data from different sources. So the one source is the service manager data. This data gets pulled from the data warehouse view that we created. And on your right-hand side, you will see call center statistics. And that is from all our PABX systems across the 3 campuses where we get the data from that's being displayed here. So on top, you have a view of this. You'll see at the bottom, there's 5 pages. We'll get to that now. So this is an overall view of all the activity in the university. and then a breakdown for the 3 campuses, and
Okay.
the work items created today and work completed today. So just to see how busy it is. And then as well at the bottom, you can see the pie charts where we have split the incidents and service requests according to the categories, so that you can quickly visualize and see what is keeping everybody busy. And these charts are also clickable, so you can click on something and it will drill down a little bit. This is not the best example of drill down reports, but the idea is just to show, again, with the Power BI, you can add multiple data sources into one screen according to your needs. And then at the bottom, you can start. Yeah, yes. So then at the bottom, you can just slide, and then there's the same data, but it's been split into all the different service desks that we have. So you can see the stats for the day and the same kind of pie charts. So yeah, so this is not real-time data. I think it's about 15 minutes or 30 minutes behind what we've set the refresh to, but it's close enough. You can really see what's going on.
Gotcha. It's a lot closer.
And as I said, yes, definitely. And it's publicly available. So whereas you can use the portal dashboards to also build stuff like this, you will have to log into the portal to actually access it. This is nice because it's on a public-facing website, and everybody can access it.
Very cool. Very cool. And there's UI considerations when you're building dashboards, and in terms of thinking about who's going to consume it, how much they need to or want to click through and around, and how they're going to present it. Is this something going to be sitting on a monitor in front of a team? Is this going to be something that a manager is going to want to look at intermittently during the day, or is it something that you drive your day through, through a dashboard report? So it's very slick, and quick and easy is kind of underlying Gerhard's skill set to put it together, but it's definitely manageable and doable.
Yes, definitely. So, like you said, there is design considerations when doing dashboards. I'm by no means an expert, but there is some guidelines that you can follow, and just to make it more presentable and easier on the eye.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then as another example, this is the one I talked about earlier. This our service desk manager actually built this. He actually gave it to me today.
Wow.
So this is another example of dashboard directly in Power BI, where you can have some metrics and graphs and much more click-throughs, can I say. What's nice is you can do a date filter here. There's a slider where you can select your date range that you want to see. There's some KPIs, what's the average resolution time. And what's nice about this as well is you can filter the campuses, so you can select only a certain campus to see the data for that campus, and then as well as the building. So if there's a power outage or a network outage or a virus going around, you can maybe drill it down to a specific building or a specific area where that problem is, and you can see the categories of that building or area, and then it will immediately pop out for you to investigate further, and maybe to give the call centers a heads up and say something is coming. Be prepared.
Gotcha. This is it. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you can go.
Okay. No, I was just going to add that it needs to drive behavior. So if it's something there whereby generally you see an issue and then you can drill down to where it's happening, that's useful. I like the bottom half as well, which gives you date sensitive over a range. information, and that can speak to whether something is trending up or down. Whether if it's up and up is good, then that's a good thing. If up is bad, then it's something that you want to consider. If you're increasingly having tickets or issues within a particular department or the particular campus, and you're seeing the trend going in a way you don't want it to go, then you can act on that. Also gives you context. If you see something today and it's an outlier, then because you've got a month's worth of data, for example.
Yes. Yeah, that makes it awesome. We have some issues with this that we just need to figure out. The Power BI only allows you a certain number of classifications that's displayed. But like I said, I received this today, so it's a very early draft. But as an example, we can now look, here's something that's bigger, color that's bigger than today, the 10th than all the other days. So you can see it was a group-wise issue. That's our email system. So there was 22 issues with that. So then you can go and investigate. This one here was an interesting one. We had an issue, for example, with our card readers, which didn't work. So it immediately comes out and it shows you that there's a problem in that area. And then you can build another report, for example, where you click on this and then it will show you the areas, all the buildings where this was logged from. So then you can immediately know, okay, this has got a problem. Get somebody from the electronic services to go and investigate what is going on.
Good, very cool, very cool. I think being with the nature of things, where we're presenting for a US conference. I'm in the UK. Gerhard is in South Africa. There's a bit of a lag on your screen there, but I think your audio came through, so we kind of understood your walkthrough in terms of the deep dive or the drill through on the data. So that's very helpful. You had another point to share as well.
Yes. So I think the last one was about the gateway. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
that speaks to.
Yeah. Also the topic of the. So inside the Power BI portal, you need to set up a gateway that connects to your campus where you host it. So how it works is we've got a VM that's got the Power BI gateway installed and authenticated with this account that's got access that manages the gateway. And from there, you set up all your different data sources. As an example, you can see here under the target source type, there's Google Analytics. Here's a file that we played with. So it's a static CSV file that can be generated by some kind of system, gets dropped into a chef folder. And then from there, BI will consume it and update your report or dashboard or whatever you have created for that. And then obviously SQL Server connection. And then here's the 3 MariaDBs for the call center stats that I showed in the first dashboard. Gotcha. And then the rest is also just SQL stuff. So this is all the different kinds of data that you can get in. There's loads more. If you're really interested, you can go and investigate to see what kind of data you can actually pull in through that gateway. And obviously just remember about the legality of it, and what you're allowed to share and push to the web.
Good. And again, there's that. Yeah. There's that the composite modeling element within Power BI that brings this together in a smart way. So you can almost treat it, once you've got the data sources you need, you can work on how you relate them, almost agnostically. They're just data points for you to work with. Good point Gerhard made about, possibly if you're bringing in disparate data, seeing what it is in its native platform before you sort of assume that, your data points are the same. You could have different naming, different structures. So it's useful to know that. But thanks, Gerhard. I'm just going to flip back to the deck. Let me share that. And I hope some of the audio and video just came through in terms of the gist of what Gerhard was sharing. And like the third part is now we're delivering this solution. There's ways and means to get that into the hands of the consumers, business managers, analysts, the system admins, and the key thing is that we need to make sure that it can be iterated on. It's understood where the data is, what the platform is, and then we want to look at ways to improve and iterate. So first question before you iterate is, did it work? And if it didn't work, then let's make it work. Maybe lessen the scale, or sharpen the focus. Have less things that we want to deliver, so that we get a result. Got to get a result, and then from there, then you look at the iteration process in terms of, we got this delivered. Where can we incrementally grow this to get the most bang for the buck? Don't iterate for the sake of it. You want to make sure that you're growing in a way that brings more value and not just more noise. And as I said, improvement and iteration are key ITIL continual improvement model principles. And Gerhard had mentioned, we looked at the area in the foundation model with regards to data. And one of the data sources that is widely available, really good, if you're in the Cyrusson portal service manager world, our cash builder database has been our mainstay and the backbone of delivering useful, actionable data, not only to the portal in terms of what you see, but also as a reporting data source. A while back, I can't even remember how far back now, it's got to be, I guess, probably 4.5 years, we introduced the analytics database, which allowed a subset of data to be copied into its own sort of repository as a database object within SQL Server. And we've grown that over time. As we've seen the richness of that information, it's a lot easier to report from. It's kind of human readable. You've got sets that you can work with, and we've really kind of leveraged that. We've seen that iterate over the years, and it's gone to its next level, which we've been excited about, and we've talked about it for quite a bit, and it finally released late last month, which is our archiver release of the portal. And what that really does is it kind of opens up the scope with regards to bringing in such a rich data set into a copied database that now organizations can look at reducing their grooming. They can reduce what's in the day-to-day live database, because they have access to all the key metrics, all the key information from an archived solution. And that can be a game changer if you've got a lot of content in your live database. If you're having to refer to tickets that have been closed for a while for either governance or auditing purposes, these are definitely game changers. Gerhard, you've recently introduced the archiver release. What's your take on it?
Yes, Steve. The main reason we installed the archiver release, not only because it's more data to consume, but we have a policy of storing the live tickets, or the tickets in the live database for a year. So that's 365 days. And for the people on the service manager space, you will know that's not best practice to have data that long, because it's not really practical. There's no reason it should be there. The main reason we decided to keep it that long is if somebody's got an issue and he said, well, 9 months ago this happened, you can quickly go to that and open it and investigate, look at the comments. I think the comments was the most important thing to get out of it, and to see the complete history. Yes, we do have the data warehouse. It does copy the data over, but there's certain key elements that does not go over, like the comments and file attachments. And I have explored options of extending the data warehouse to add the comments, and but then it's still there. Then you still need to need a way to get it out of the data warehouse into the portal.
Right.
Whereas with the archive release, we can change our days that it stays live to say 90 days or 30 days, and then it's still available in the portal. It gets groomed out of service managers, so you make your live database much more leaner, and it goes to the data warehouse, but it also goes to the archiver stuff. So once it gets groomed from the live database, it's still accessible. It's still everybody can investigate it, see what happened. They can open the work items. So that's an awesome win for us, and that will also increase our portal speed, the service manager speed, because there's not that much scoping that needs to be done the whole time on everything. So that's a huge win for us. And then, of course, behind that, it's also a new data source. You can get data from that. I haven't explored it that much, but we'll look at it and see what we can get from it. So instead of using that view from the data warehouse, we can connect to that archive and use that data.
That's really cool. You know, it's a great example of that iterative process. You build something with a certain data set. The introduction of features within this analytics database allows us to consider moving from what was traditionally a data warehouse role into something that is in the analytics database side. And there's lots of, and I'm hoping we'll have some discussion and comments, questions around this particular question in the presenter session afterwards, and also possibly in the open floors, because Gerhard's sort of use case for our archiver release is, you know, almost bang into that sweet spot. He wants to look at a ticket that's old, but they want to see all the richness around the ticket, and to try and pull that from a stored source, a data warehouse source requires SQL. You've got to go query like crazy and bring things together. This now becomes agnostic to the consumer. The analyst pulls up a ticket, and if it was last year or the year before, it's there as if it was just closed. So it's a much better experience. And then exploring what that data set offers with regards to reporting. As I said, a couple of bullet points there. It's a simpler data set within the analytics database data source, so it's easier to understand. I think, you know, people can understand. There's no need for a big dictionary in terms of understanding what is in it. Plus and minus is that there's no cube data. There's nothing being brought up in an aggregated fashion, almost like pivot tables, if you like. So schema and dimensions are not there. But again, it depends on your organization and what you do with that kind of data as to whether you need it or whether it's worth building something based on the database that gives you that sort of rich aggregation that you'd want from cube data. And as I said, you know, the archiver release sort of introduces the agnostic, you know, the right kind of agnostic access to groom ticket information. It's great to just be able to query an IR or an SR and not have to worry about whether it's being groomed or not when you're querying it. Is that right? Yeah. And again, it's a repository for that ticket reporting. So it's exciting for us within the sort of the Saracen environment. We've seen customers eagerly awaiting for this release. It's interesting that Gerhard got the release and went straight to production because he had the need. It fit the bill, and sort of reaping that benefits and looking for ways to leverage it in reporting. So final slide is just, you know, the next move. What do you do with all this information? We shared some stuff. Got a great use case with what the work that Gerhard's doing with Northwest University. He's adding value to those personas, the business managers, the analysts, and the system admin teams, with regards to just being on point around bringing the data in a format, in a style that they can consume easily and quickly to make a decision or to drive a behavior. So a couple of points there. What problem, can this type of solution that we shared be applied to in your organization? Start small. It really doesn't have to be all bells and whistles. Understanding even just the platform, bringing in a very simple gateway, a couple of sources, things that you've already got already, but just applying it through the gateway model is going to be useful. And as I said, start something somewhere. It doesn't have to be organization wide. It could be a garage project. It could be something within a particular department. Could you attest to that, Gerhard? It makes sense to.
Yes.
It scales so well,
yes.
right?
Yeah. So start small. We are, like I said, we are only starting with the Power BI solution now, and there's a lot of options and a lot of possibilities to do it. So we will definitely iterate and expand on the solution and provide it to a wider audience, but more focused data in the long term.
Excellent. Excellent. And leverage resources and knowledge. The beauty of this of this technology, it stays in the Microsoft service management solution stack. Cybersyn have been in this space for well over a decade with regards to our mantra is trying to make your lives ridiculously more productive. And we see the benefits of leveraging the tool set and the platforms from Microsoft, and then adding those things. If we can reduce a click, if we can bring some value to the desktop, if we can bring things to a pane of glass, if we can just make things less obscure and more understandable and actionable, or more performant, we'll do all those things because we want to make people's lives ridiculously more productive. We do that in that space with regards to SCSM, and also looking to drive that into the space with regards to the rest of the Microsoft system stack. So leverage those resources. They're out there. They're available from Cybersyn. They're available generally. So leverage it for sure. And then last point is keep the communication as open as needed. I know we're all IT people, or I guess most of this audience are sort of I have an IT bent, and sometimes I know I'm guilty of sort of keeping things under the hat until I think it's absolutely perfect and everyone's going to love it. And often that takes a lot more cycles than it needs to. It may get me down rabbit holes that I could have avoided if I'd shared, where I was going and what I was thinking a lot sooner and earlier. And if we're starting something somewhere, then keeping the communication as open as needed is definitely an important thing. Any thoughts on that, Gerhard? I know you've got a big organization there.
Yes, no, you definitely need to keep it open, and it's true what you said. If you don't think about what you're doing, what data you want to have, and what's the result of it, you can build something that you think is the best, but as soon as you present it to managers or to high level people, it doesn't make sense to them. They don't want to see all the data. So keep it open and keep iterating. That first dashboard that I showed with the purple one with the 5 slides, my colleague actually built that, and he went through a lot of iterations from pie charts to bar charts to line charts to just work through it and get feedback from the managers about what is fit for that specific type of page. So start somewhere and iterate, communicate, and just keep on evolving. And as soon as you build confidence on the BI platform, more people will buy in, and you can grow much faster and bigger.
That's great. That's great. Well, on that note, there's nothing more to add to what Gerhard just said. I think that's awesome. Really appreciate your time and attention during this session. Gerhard, thank you so much for carving out time in your day, and obviously all the back channel chats and everything else, and also being available for the Q&A. So As I said, the conferences are recorded. We've got the interaction after the session, and Open Floor is open all day. And we would love and appreciate and welcome all of your comments and feedback. So anything else from you, Gerhard?
No, nothing. I will, like you said, I'll be available after this for the Q&A, and I will try to pop in as much as possible in the open floors. I'll clear my schedule for Innovate Day.
Excellent, excellent. And it needs to be a whole day because we're all over the world. But that's by the by. We we definitely appreciate your time and attention. As I said, thank you again. Enjoy the rest of the sessions, and we'll see you in the interaction. Presenter interaction after the session. Okay, thank you very much.
Cheers, everyone.
Okay.